She laughed at her mistake. I planned her collapse in silence. Welcome to the channel where every story leaves a mark. If you're watching this, you're part of something powerful. Let us know in the comments, where in the world are you tuning in from? We love seeing how far these stories travel. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you won't miss tomorrow's gripping tale. Trust me, it's one you'll want to be here for. He didn't scream. He didn't curse. He didn't even blink. When Dylan Carter confronted his fiancée, Madison Blake, about the video, her reaction said everything. She was still half drunk, wrapped in a silk robe that clung lazily to her shoulder. She smirked, tilted her head, and said, "Don't be dramatic. It's not that deep. 3 men. 1 weekend. Her bachelorette party in Vegas. And she laughed. Not the kind of laugh that hides guilt. No, this was the kind that bites, the kind that makes you feel like you're the joke." Dylan stood there, frozen, not out of shock, but out of clarity. Something inside him didn't explode. It just went still. Quiet, focused. That was the moment he left. Not the room, her life. They had met in college when both were broke, invisible, full of dreams bigger than their wallets. Madison was a storm in heels, wild, spontaneous, unpredictable. She made every room feel electric. Dylan was the opposite, grounded, patient, methodical. She lived for fast weekends and easy thrills. He lived for purpose, stability, and trust. Somehow that contrast once fit like puzzle pieces. But as time passed, it became clear. They were speaking 2 different love languages. She craved attention. He craved depth. She wanted the perfect Instagram wedding. He wanted the kind of marriage that grows roots through hardship. Still, Dylan believed. He planned. He sacrificed. Then came Monday. An anonymous email, no words, just a 47-second video. He opened it alone in his office. There she was, Madison, on a balcony, 3 strangers. No shame, no hesitation, no trace of the woman he thought he knew. He watched it twice. Then he deleted it. Not because he forgave her, but because in those 47 seconds his decision had already taken shape. The wedding was in 10 days. Everyone was excited. Vendors were confirmed, photos were scheduled. Madison kept laughing, kept posting, kept bragging to her friends that Dylan was too soft to ever leave her. But Dylan wasn't soft. He was silent. And silence is sharper than rage. He went through the motions like a ghost, smiling for pictures he knew he'd never frame, listening to her talk about color schemes while in his mind he was already gone. No confrontation, no warning, no drama. Just a single bag, a ring left neatly on the nightstand, and a quiet exit at 3:17 a.m. He didn't slam the door. He didn't leave a letter. Not yet. Because this wasn't just about leaving. It was about letting her feel what it's like to lose something real. And Dylan? He wasn't broken. He was building the blueprint for her collapse. They started with nothing. 2 kids fresh out of college, surviving off takeout and shared dreams in a crumbling 1-bedroom apartment just outside Seattle. Madison. Blake had a fire in her, the kind that made strangers turn their heads. She was chaos in red lipstick, wild on Friday nights, always chasing the next thrill. Dylan Carter, by contrast, was steady, quiet, the kind of man who ironed his shirts and showed up 5 minutes early, even to a date. They weren't supposed to work. But somehow they did. In the beginning, her unpredictability felt like adventure. His discipline felt like safety. She said he balanced her. He said she grounded him. They stayed up late talking about the future, her dreams of opening a boutique, his goal of becoming a lead developer. They had a system, a rhythm. He'd fix the Wi-Fi, she'd burn dinner and make him laugh about it. But beneath the surface, cracks were forming. Madison liked to flirt with the edge. She called it just being fun. But Dylan knew better. She danced too close to strangers at bars, forget to answer her phone, tell white lies about where she'd been. He excused it at first. Love makes you overlook the little things. But over time, those little things grew teeth. He started noticing the patterns. How every fight ended with her twisting his words. How she made him feel guilty for asking questions. She was beautiful, so damn beautiful. But she made loyalty feel like a burden. Still, he stayed. Because love to Dylan meant sacrifice. Commitment, staying even when it's hard. Madison, though, she wanted the spotlight. She wanted the ring, the wedding hashtag, the champagne toasts, the 300 likes per photo. She wanted to walk down the aisle in a $6,000 gown and have everyone envy her. But she never really wanted the marriage. Dylan didn't realize how different they were until it was too late, until the video. 47 seconds of brutal clarity. Not just betrayal, but confirmation. She wasn't someone who slipped up. She was someone who never took their future seriously. And now, all those nights when she brushed off his concerns, all those times she rolled her eyes and called him too intense, it all made sense. He had loved a version of her that only existed in his head. That was the real grief. Not losing her, but losing the illusion of her. As the days ticked down toward the wedding, Dylan played the role. The supportive fiancé, the patient planner. But inside he was grieving something no one else could see. Every laugh she faked, every kiss she gave without meaning. He noticed it now, all of it, and he didn't say a word, because she didn't deserve a confrontation. She deserved the kind of silence that echoes. By the time the wedding was a week away, Dylan Carter had already rehearsed every move, not for the ceremony, but for his exit. Madison was glowing, posting countdowns on Instagram, sending out last-minute RSVPs, talking about floral arches and champagne towers. She smiled like nothing had happened. She kissed him like she hadn't burned everything they'd built. But Dylan, he was done pretending. The video had killed something inside him, but it also awakened something else, something colder, sharper. For the first time in his life, Dylan stopped asking what was fair and started planning what was final. He moved quietly, like a man on a mission. He triple-checked the prenup, her idea, ironically. Madison had insisted on protecting her future boutique, but Dylan's attorney, thorough as ever, made sure the house remained his and that any financial fallout wouldn't touch him. She signed without reading the fine print. While she picked out dessert samplers and posed for engagement photos, Dylan was liquidating accounts, transferring titles, and preparing a duffel bag with just the essentials. A passport, a few grand in cash, a hoodie, his grandfather's watch, and one printed copy of the video. He wasn't going to use it. Not yet. But he needed to know it was real, that he hadn't imagined the betrayal, that he wasn't the one who lost his mind. It was her who lost her soul. The night before his silent departure, Madison sat across from him on the couch, scrolling through venue playlists. She asked if he liked the song for their first dance. Dylan nodded calmly. Inside, he was counting down 3:17 a.m. That was the time he'd chosen. The house would be quiet. Madison would be asleep, curled up in 600 thread count sheets, dreaming of a day that would never come. At exactly 3 a.m., he stood in the dark, staring at her one last time. No tears, no second thoughts. He placed the $4,500 engagement ring on the nightstand, right beside the wedding binder she never stopped flipping through. The silence felt like thunder. He slipped out the door, into the cool Seattle night, where the air smelled like rain and freedom. The cab was already waiting. No luggage, just that one bag and a look on his face that said, "Never again." By the time Madison woke up, the closet was empty. The man she swore would never leave her was gone. No note, no message, just absence. And absence, when you've taken someone for granted, is louder than rage. Dylan didn't disappear out of weakness. He disappeared out of power. He knew she'd panic, that she'd call, cry, maybe even beg, but she had crossed a line you don't return from. This wasn't about revenge, not yet. This was the quiet before the collapse, and Dylan had built it, brick by brick with precision, because some betrayals don't deserve a confrontation. They deserve consequences, and his would echo for years. Madison didn't understand what had happened, at least not right away. She woke up to cold sheets and an open closet. The wedding binder lay exactly where she'd left it, but Dylan's ring was sitting beside it like a tombstone. No note, no explanation, just silence. And that silence screamed louder than anything she'd ever heard. She called. No answer. She texted. Nothing. By noon, she was crying into her maid of honor's shoulder, swearing it was a mistake, that he'd come back, that he was just being emotional. But Dylan wasn't being emotional. He was being exact. While Madison spiraled, Dylan sat in a cabin 2 hours outside of town, sipping black coffee and watching the fog roll in over the lake. No social media, no emails, just peace, and a man learning the full power of his own boundaries. But he wasn't done. Not yet. This wasn't just about escape. This was about impact. He still had the video, his insurance policy. A 47-second clip. That told the truth without him ever saying a word. Dylan never planned to go public. He wasn't vindictive, but he believed in accountability. And Madison had built her whole life around perception, reputation, image. So he used that, quietly, surgically. He mailed a private USB to her boss, sealed in a manila envelope with no return address. The footage violated her company's moral clause, something Madison had probably forgotten existed. She was fired 2 days later. Then came her church. Madison loved to be seen on Sundays, front row, hands raised, all smiles. Dylan sent a copy of the video to her pastor with a note that read, "For context." The church board asked her to step down from her volunteer leadership role. And finally, her parents. They adored Dylan, thought he was the best thing that ever happened to their daughter. They had no idea who she really was that weekend in Vegas. Now they did. And once they knew, the support dried up like spilled wine. Madison went from planning a luxury wedding in Napa Valley to sitting on the floor of her apartment, jobless, cut, off and spiraling. And Dylan, he watched it all unfold from a distance, calm, detached. Not out of cruelty, but because justice, real justice, isn't loud. It's deliberate. She started showing up, outside his old office, his gym, even his mother's house. She screamed, she cried, she begged. But Dylan didn't move, he didn't yell back. He didn't grant her the performance she wanted, because this wasn't a story about heartbreak anymore. It was about consequences. She had always believed he was too soft, too forgiving. But what she didn't realize was that still waters don't mean calm. Sometimes they mean depth. And Dylan, he had depth she never saw coming. This wasn't revenge, this was closure with precision. Dylan never looked back, not once. While Madison unraveled in real time, he stood still, unshaken, unmoved, untouched. The damage was already done. He hadn't caused the fire. He just let her burn in it. The final nail came quietly. The wedding venue tried to keep their non-refundable $15,000 deposit. Dylan sued. He won. The irony? He used the money to book a solo trip to Iceland, a place Madison always wanted to go but never bothered to plan for. He hiked glaciers under moonlight, slept in silence broken only by the wind, and stood on cliffs that made every lie she told feel small. There, in the stillness of ice and sky, he found something Madison never gave him: peace. Back home, her life kept shrinking. She moved into a one-bedroom walk-up with no central heat and paint chipping off the walls. Dylan didn't stalk her, didn't obsess, he just happened to see a glimpse in a friend's Instagram story. She looked hollow, thin, pale, haunted. There was no sparkle in her eyes. No filters could hide it. She had become a ghost in her own life. A month later, a letter came, handwritten, torn at the edges. She said she was in therapy now, that she finally understood what she did, that she still loved him, that she missed who they used to be. Dylan read it once. No anger, no smile, no closure. Then he walked outside and burned it, because sometimes closure doesn't come from a conversation. Sometimes it comes when you stop giving them an audience. He didn't owe her a second chance. He didn't owe her anything. She taught him the most brutal lesson of all. That betrayal doesn't just kill love, it murders identity. He had to lose her to meet the man hiding underneath the hurt. So no, he didn't miss her. He missed who he thought she was. The girl who danced barefoot in their first apartment. The one who said forever and almost believed it. But he had learned the cost of illusions. And grief? Grief is cheaper than regret. People ask if he regrets walking away so close to the wedding. If he ever wondered, what if? He doesn't. Because when someone hands you the match and dares you to burn it all down, sometimes the only answer is to strike it. She told him once, it's not that deep. So he dug until she couldn't climb out. And in the end, he wasn't the one who fell. He just stopped reaching for someone who never intended to hold on. And that was the real beginning of his life. This story isn't just about betrayal. It's about self-respect, clarity, and the quiet kind of strength that speaks louder than any argument. If you've ever been in a relationship where you gave your all only to realize the other person was never truly holding on, this is for you. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is walk away. Not with rage, not with revenge, but with resolve. Now we want to hear from you. Have you ever reached a point where silence was your only answer? Have you ever had to choose peace over closure, dignity over drama? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Your story might be the one that helps someone else find the courage to leave what no longer serves them. And if you've never been in a situation like this, tell us. What would you have done in Dylan's shoes? Let us know where you're watching from too. We love seeing this community grow across the world. And don't forget to subscribe. We've got another story coming tomorrow that just might hit even harder than this one. Your voice matters. Let it be heard below.